Equinox Skills School tonight. You can see the gold guru right back there. We're going to go over the Equinox tonight, and Thursday night we'll be back. And we're going to do the Excalibur. So it'll be in the same location, the same time, 6:30. So we are going to get geared up and get going here. And hopefully we get all your questions answered. So as the guru, he's checking to see if he can see us. And I think we are live on Facebook and YouTube. So with that being said, we're going to go over the Equinox right now. And so I'm going to take the camera with me, and it's going to be kind of a roving camera angle. So just kind of bear with us, and we'll see what we can see here. So, okay, Phil, take it away.
Hey folks, Phil Myers here from Myers Metal Detectors, and yeah, I can see us in the computer there, so that's great. Hey, first thing, folks, I always remind people, if you have an Equinox, it's not very complicated, but it can be. The first thing you should always do is read your manual. So that's why I get the manual here. Now, it doesn't come in the box, so you'll have to print this out. I like paper, so I printed mine out, but you can read it online. Just go to the Minelab site and print out or read your manual.
Yeah, and download it on their phone. They always have it with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of people will ask me questions, and I say, "Have you read the manual?" And most of the time, they haven't. And if you've read the manual, then you're ready for the next step, and that's either this book here by Andy Savage or the books by Clive Clinic. He's got, I think, 3 or 4 of them on the Equinox. So you can make the Equinox as complicated or as simple as you want it. And while I'm here, for you folks that don't know, I do stock the Stealth Scoops with carbon fiber handles. So I guess we can see that. You're going to need one of these if you get an Equinox, because if you're hunting out in the water, you're going to need a good scoop so you can dig deep fast, especially if the water's moving, your hole gets filled in.
Even if they're dry sanders, Phil, it's got the holes that it'll drain good dry sand, wet sand. It's got this right back here to catch all those little fines.
All the earrings and tiny stuff. That's the hybrid back end on it. I love that because you can tilt that in the water and catch anything that's real small.
Yeah, so it works out great.
Today when we were hunting, I caught a couple of the little fishing weights, the tiny ones that just clip onto the line, and that caught them. Those things will drive you crazy in a regular scoop.
And with me, it's a short drive.
Well, let me grab.
Trust me, it's a short drive for me. Anyway,
I'm going to grab the Equinox here, and this is the Equinox 800, and the most common question I get, this happens to me all the time. People will call us at the shop and say, "Listen to my detector." And first, let me do it. I'll give you the. They'll say, "Listen to my detector. It won't shut up on the beach." Okay, this is, my wife will testify. I get this comment all the time. It won't shut up. It keeps blinking numbers. It keeps changing all the time. And what that is here, where we're located, is EMI. We've got the sensitivity set up too high. The first thing I do when they call me on the phone, I say, "Well, hit the minus button," and you can see it's 25. That's our sensitivity is set to 25. Up here around this hotel, we back that down to 10. It'll be perfectly quiet. But on the beach, your sensitivity, just start right out of the box, set it down to 16 till you get used to the detector. That's your sensitivity setting. Now, if we run through this, can we? Yeah, we can show that on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our sensitivity. We're in the beach mode, which, as you see, is multi. And multi is so it handles the salt perfectly and multi-frequency. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to noise cancel. A lot of folks don't do this. So we hit the gear, and you see it highlight over here, the noise cancel, and then we hit that check button. And then we are ready to go. I usually hit the pinpoint button to get me in the hunt mode, and of course set that sensitivity back up to 16 or 18, and we'll be set to go hunting. So that the next, I'll just run through the settings on the bottom here. So the people know ground balance here in Florida, we don't have to worry about the ground balance. If you're on heavily mineralized soil or whatnot, you might consider ground balancing. Or Clive says that he sets his ground balance to -9, and he can hear and runs in 2 tones, and he can hear the tones easier that way. He says it's more distinct. I haven't been tried that yet, so I'll have to give that a whirl.
I have, and it works fair in Florida, but he's in Canada, so we need to remember that, and it's completely different up in Canada.
Right, absolutely. And the next one is target volume. I see this is Jeff's detector, as you can see, and he's also got the detect head shaft on it. That is a super nice shaft that you can loosen it and slide it back in real easy, and it's just really lightweight, and it's in 2 pieces rather than 3. So just giving you a heads up on that. He's got the detector red.
And
But
you stock them.
yes, I do. I stock those shafts, and they make the detector even lighter than it already is.
And you got the new arm cuffs in too, for
I
those
do
of
have
you
the
that have
detect
broken
head
your arm cuff.
arm cuffs that are made out of what is he called? The aluminum.
Aluminium.
Aluminium. He's from
He's an Aussie.
Australia, so it's aluminium. It's kind of funny when you hear that, but we do stock them anyway. Jeff, as you can see, is hard of hearing because he's got his target volume up on 25.
Just like a post. Deaf as the post.
There you go. And then the next thing, the threshold sound. Now, a lot of guys don't like the threshold. I personally like the threshold, but I'm turning the threshold way up so we can hear it on the live feed. But Jeff runs it at 13. And why don't you tell us real quick, Jeff, why you run a threshold?
Well, the threshold, it tells you a lot when you're out in the water, especially, or even when you're dry sanding or wet sanding, because a lot of times the target will be very deep and you won't get any VDI numbers, and you may not even get a tone. Now, the threshold, if you get just an interruption in the threshold, if it's a consistent interruption in the threshold, you may want to dig that, put a scoop on it or 2, because that could be some very, very deep gold. And I've dug deep gold just by bumping the threshold. And it gives you, so keeps you on your toes, so you're not out, the happy wanderer, wandering around. And another thing I think that that does is it makes you more of a tone hunter, which I'm a tone hunter, Phil's a tone hunter, because we came up and, using the Excalibur, which you're hunting in tones, and CTX and that type of thing. So you get hooked up on VDI numbers, and that can be very, very deceiving. And, you dig a lot of stuff you don't want to dig. So that's why I like the threshold.
So yeah, especially if you're coming from the Excalibur 2 or Excalibur, you're used to the threshold sound, and you hear really deep targets out of the range of the detector, but it changes that threshold. You dig them. You don't know if it's good or bad, but a lot of times the deep targets are the heavy targets. And the heavy targets are the lead, the coins, and the gold. So
yep.
We want to find the heavy targets. All right, over to the next one. And Jeff has his display cover on here, which has all the words. Looks like he needs another one because it's starting to peel away. But Jeff uses his Equinox a lot, so I'll have to get him a new display cover there. Anyway, he's got it on 5 tones. 5 tones, I think, is the easiest to understand. Some people like 2 tones. Some people, if they're tone deaf, just use 1 tone. But you could do 50, but 50 seems a little confusing for me. So I like the 5 tones. Also,
I hunt 5 tone most of the time in the water, either 2 tone or 5 tone. If there's a lot of junk, if you're digging a lot of junk, then I switch to 5 tone. If you're not digging a lot of junk and you're getting some good targets, I hunt 2 tone. Now, when I use the Equinox on wet sand, dry sand, or land, I hunt 50 tones.
All right, so then the next one we have the accept reject, and you guys can change turn any number off you want to, but Jeff's got, I guess the stock is -9. That's the first 9 tones. That anything negative, it's going to be an iron tone, a fish hook, bobby pin, crab wire, rusty bottle caps, which are the toughest to discern, but they'll bounce around, especially if you're running in the with the horseshoe and the all metal mode. That what helps me. I turn everything on. Well, I can't do it from here, but let me do that real quick. I turn everything on, and I'm able to discern the bottle caps as I'm getting close to them. There'll be a negative number as I'm going over. It's back in the gold range, like 11 to 15. And if I going away from the target with the coil, it'll bounce back to the negative. So you'll have that bouncing big time. And I noticed with the latest update, now you run that I guess it's the F2.
Mm-hmm.
That one, you've got your recovery speed at 6, and if we go into the advanced menu, the FE and F2, you got the FE on this
Mm-hmm.
one. But where am I at now? Shouldn't do this live. FE, there's F2. F2, I can tell the bottle cap's a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of guys like the older version, the FE, so they'll keep it on the FE. But I in the F2 setting, I usually can tell the bottle cap's a lot easier. And then Jeff's running the Beach 1. Here in the Gulf, do you run the Beach 2 or you stay on Beach 1 all the time?
In the water, I usually on Beach 2.
Yeah.
It's a little more sensitive to smaller jewelry.
Yeah, and it's calmer too.
When
you got
calmer.
that fast salt water moving over it. So those are the settings, the most common settings that we use. But remember, sensitivity, set it at 16 to start if you're new, and then keep increasing in that. Now, we'll warn you if you're running your sensitivity wide open. A lot of times, I think it sends so much power to the target, it changes the sound on here. And I think that a bad target will, if you're running maximum sensitivity, a bad target will sound good. Do you find that when you're dirt hunting?
Oh, yeah.
I find that in dirt hunting, that a nail or something, if I'm running my sensitivity wide open, it's starting to make that sound like a good target.
I've never run the sensitivity wide open. I just never found it necessary.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys will run their sensitivity wide open because they think they're going to get maximum depth, but then a lot of times you're digging a lot more junk and trash.
Well, I don't want to dig that deep. You know, that's where COVID come from. You dig that deep, you're digging to China, and then you get the COVID.
You get the COVID virus. There you go. That happens. But those are our settings. Now, do we have any questions on there?
I don't know. I can't
That's
say.
a good question. Can you look on your Facebook page, Jess, and see if we have any questions on it? Oh, pull up Treasure Talk in Facebook. And I want to emphasize back to make sure you run your sensitivity, especially if you're new. You started at 16. You normally run what at on yours, Jeff? You run
sensitivity?
Yeah.
When I was in the water today, it was a 18, between 18 and 20.
Yeah, I think here we can, in the Gulf, we can run, I could say started at 18, because 18, it'll run nice and smooth. But you want to try to, I would like to run the detector a little bit high. So if it's a little chirpy, it doesn't bother me. So I'll run it maybe 20, 22 sometimes in the water. But then again, you run the risk of making a bad target sound really good. So you'll notice that.
And for a lot of the newbies, let's go ahead and run through the Beach 1, Beach 2, Gold, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so we can run through the programs real quick, and that's just hitting the detector button. Jeff was in Beach 1 there, but now Beach 2, you got Gold Prospecting 1 and 2. And the cool thing about the Equinox, you could use that in gold country looking for nuggets. I was out in Arizona with Mine Lab, and they had these out there. So we were, now that's been 2.5 years ago, but with the gold prospecting program, the cool thing about it, this button down here on the side is your frequency changer, and you can run at 40 kilohertz. Just turn the sound down on that, Joss, and you'll be able to look at it. But you can turn it to 40 kilohertz and find that would help aid in finding small gold nuggets out in the desert. But you can't do that in the beach mode. You can only run in multi, and that's because of the salt there. But let me hit the wrong button again. Darn it. Go back to, now that would be Park 1 and Park 2. And in those, you can change your frequency if you want. Now you can run at 4 kilohertz.
And that was the new update.
That was the update. So I know you're running the latest update because it's got the 4 kilohertz. Have you used that for coin hunting?
Yep, I have. And I found some deep coins in a place that I had pounded.
And I think, too, running just a single frequency in an area like that. Go ahead, Josh. Do you have a question?
Why 50 tones in the wet?
Why, Jeff, why 50 tones?
Why
in the
50 tones in the wet? Well, for me, I like the 50 tones because it gives me the different pitches of tone so I can more identify what I'm digging. You know, like a silver ring will come up a real high tone in 50 tone. Where, you know, a quarter will come up different tone, a dime will come up a different tone, a penny, whatever. The variance in the tones is more pronounced in 50 tone than it is in 5 tone. 5 tone, you only got the range. You know, you got your low for your iron and foil, and then, you know, medium, and it doesn't get a real high tone. In 50 tones, you come across silver or a big silver ring, it's going to zing out there real high pitched and real clear and solid. So that's why I run 50 tones on the dry sand and in the wet sand and on dry land. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, Jeff, and you brought up the interesting thing about the foil. Now, do you dig the low numbers?
Yes,
What numbers do you dig?
if it's consistent signal, I'll dig 2, 1, 2, and 3, 4s.
I dig them too. I haven't, the 1 and 2s, I haven't found a good target yet, but 3s and 4s, I've dug gold earrings.
Yep.
That are small, and you know, they add up. That's cool when you find something gold.
Yeah, because you never know. I mean,
so-
some of the stuff, especially if it's bent
Mhm.
or something like that, like a gold ring could be bent.
Or it could be broken.
Yeah,
Give you different.
and it's going to give you a lower number.
And I watch a lot of videos of low numbers picking up thin gold chains. I haven't had that happen yet, but when I do, for sure, I'll be posting a picture of the of the thin gold chain with the low number. So that's interesting. You dig the low numbers. I've had people tell me they dig the low, up to -6 number. I don't dig the negative numbers, especially if it's, and this is something to emphasize. The deeper the target, the less accurate the detector.
Yeah.
So if it's only got a shovel on here, you're pretty guaranteed that that's the in the target range that the detector is displaying. But if it's got 3 or 4 or 5 shovels deep, it's a deep target, I generally would just go ahead and dig it.
Yeah, if it's deep, it's got to be something heavy.
Absolutely. So back to the display here with the frequency shift, you could go 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, or because we're on the Equinox 800, you could run the 20 or 40. I don't do that. I generally just run a multi when I'm coin hunting. I'm looking at older home sites, and I want to take a bigger picture the way I look at all the frequencies. If there's chances, if there was a gold coin there, I want to make sure I got a good chance of hitting it, although you would hit it on the 4 kilohertz, but I just would rather have the bigger picture than the narrow picture. So that was Park 1 and Park 2, and we've got Field 1 and Field 2, and then back to Beach 1 and Beach 2.
So another thing, don't be afraid to, if you're a dry sander, go ahead and try Park 1, Park 2, or Field 1 and 2. You just because it says park and you're in a park, don't feel like you've got to hunt in Park 1 or 2. You don't. You can hunt in Field 1 or 2. You can use Beach 1 or 2 in a park.
Yes, that's an important thing to emphasize. A lot of times people will learn one program. It doesn't matter where they're at. If you're not wanting to dig to China, if you're in a park and you want to use your beach program because that's all you know that really well, by all means, use the detector the way you like to hunt. Did you have a question, Josh?
Well, Joe Busey says happy hunting.
Okay.
And Steve Thunder says he loves the show. Have you talked about the
Steve Kunder?
Yes, the detected carbon fiber shaft. That's an awesome product made from the Aussies. And
it comes in the 2 colors. This is the red belly.
The red belly is a little more expensive than the black. I didn't realize that, but it is.
And then you've got the black one.
The black one, and then the arm cuff made out of what again, Jeff?
Aluminium.
Aluminium. You got to get that right. That's how he says it. We had him live on the show. So, what was his name again? I forgot already.
Ed.
Ed.
I can't remember his last name, but
Didn't
you
know
know, it
that.
says Detect Ed. I said, "What's your name?" He says, "Ed."
Ed.
Okay.
It's Ed from Australia with his aluminium
Yeah,
armed cuff.
and he's coming out with some new stuff down the road here.
Yes, he is.
You
And
know?
we'll probably get him back on the show too. But anyway, the next one, what do we got here, Jeff? We've gone through all the controls.
Yep.
Then the other thing, most people, I should have had this on before, probably see it better with the backlight. On the 800, I think you have 4 different settings
Mm-hmm.
for the backlight, which is really nice. And then, of course, Jeff runs as you can see, the back pieces off. He's running the
Eisenhower Ikes.
Ike's headphones. But we sell if you want an Ike, you'd have to get that from Tony Eisenhower. But in the shop, we have the MindLab ones, the yellow Koss, I think they are. And then we also have the Gray Ghost Amphibian 2 headphones. And they work extremely well. I have Amphibian 2s on my CTX. And that detector is a nice detector too, but it's a whole lot heavier than this. And I tell people, especially if they're getting their first detector, well, if you can afford the CTX, go ahead and get it. But most of them will opt for the Equinox series because it's unbelievable value for the money.
And you know, people, if you don't have a lot of money to spend, you know, the Equinox comes in a 600 too.
Yes.
And it just doesn't have the gold program on it, and it doesn't have, you know, there's less fine tuning. Now you can save programs on this too. If you want to tune your own program, make some adjustments, you can save programs on there. Personally, I have not found it necessary to do that because you can tweak it enough and just run it in the, the main programs where I have never found you needed it.
Yeah, you can run the stock programs right out of the box as long as you noise cancel, turn your sensitivity down. Don't run that wide open the first day you get the detector, and you'll do extremely well with this detector.
And another thing that they need to remember, and this came right straight from the engineer from Australia that built this detector. He was the lead engineer on the MindLab Equinox. Every time you make a change, if you change your sensitivity, do a noise cancel. If you change from beach 1 to beach 2, do a noise cancel. Every time you make a change, you noise cancel. And if you're out for long periods of time, for instance, I was out for about 8 hours today. At least every half hour, 45 minutes, I'll just do a noise cancel. It just, it takes about good to go, and it really pays off.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you just learn the detector. Like I said, the most important thing is to read the manual. The second most important thing is turn your sensitivity 18, especially if you're on the beach.
Yep.
You know, you can get away with running the real high sensitivity on the land and do okay as long as there's not some outside electrical interference in power lines, some buildings or whatnot. You could get away with doing that. But if you go on the beach, don't run it at 25 when you first buy the detector, because you'll be calling Phil at the shop and say, hey, why is the detector sounding like this? And then
yeah, and here's another little tidbit for you. You know, a lot of people say, oh, well, I don't carry my cell phone with me anymore because, it causes interference with the detector. It does not on the MindLab. If you think about it, when you get the MindLab 800, you get the wireless headphones. Now, it's got a feature on there that you can take and receive cell phone calls on there through your headphones. So it does not cause any interference in the detector at all, carrying your cell phone with you. So that's just another good tip.
yeah, sweet. And I like when I'm land hunting, the wireless headphones are awesome.
Oh yeah,
because they're not the real big ones. They're like half size, and they just it's so nice not being tethered to the detector. Out here in the water, it's not an issue, but on the land or even dry sand hunting, I'd probably put the wireless headphones on. And for those who Jeff was talking about the 800 and the 600, if you're not going to be gold prospecting and you're limited budget, the 600 is fine. I got a 600 myself. The reason I don't have the 800 is because when they both came out, the 600 was readily available. The 800 was hot in both detecting, like we do, beach and coin and relic hunting, and also gold prospecting. So that's why I got the 600, and I just kind of got hooked on it, just kept it. So one day I'll probably will upgrade and sell my 600 and start using the 800 primarily. But somebody had a question, Joss?
I do.
Yes.
I want to know what good treasures you found from the hurricane this time.
From the hurricane this time, I didn't find any real. We have some guests here in the background, and I didn't find any real good hurricane treasures. I
Let's
found,
put them on. You're on YouTube and
Okay.
Facebook.
and you got to put the
I'm a
camera
member
down
of
a
the
little bit.
page
There you
since
go.
early summer.
Oh yeah, they're actually on the page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
No, I just figured you find some good things washed up from the hurricane, possibly.
Yes. Sure. The hurricanes, most of the good stuff is found on the east coast of Florida, where we have the Treasure Coast or the 1715 Plate Fleet. And for those who don't know what that is, in 1715, it was what, 13 ships sunk? Somebody will correct me online. It might have been 14.
I think it was 13.
13. They found 11 of them already, and they're not even a half mile off the coast. And after every storm, the stuff could be there on the beach today, but it could be under 8 feet of sand. So we're not going to hear it with our detector.
Right.
But after the storms come, they move some sand away and uncover stuff that's right there at the dune line a lot of times. But I saw some stuff found, a few coins, but nothing really big.
No,
Sure.
even like out here today, we were in such, because that storm went through, Sally went up through the Gulf and caused a bunch of waves and wind this last week. But what it did here is it just brought in a lot of sand. And there's another little tip for you. When you're water hunting, if it feels sticky on your feet, that means there's an awful lot of sand in there. So targets are going to be very, very deep. And that's what we found today. But, as in the words of Mel Fisher, tomorrow, today is the day, tomorrow. So we'll find all our gold and stuff tomorrow. So let's see. We got anything else, Phil? What do you got?
Let's go back to the detector real quick. I see you've got a coil saver on. This is an important thing. You put the coil saver on it. That prevents you from breaking the ears. Anyway, we hope
Yeah.
it does. That's a good idea. I don't sell those right now, but I do sell the washers that detect that. He has the coil savers, because what actually happens, people don't realize this, and I've seen it. They'll wear the washer down, and the washer is meant to keep soft rubber between the two hard plastics, the hard plastic of the lower shaft and of the coil. And what happens is that, especially people who hunt every day, hunt a lot, they'll over tighten the bolt and hardware here, and they keep tightening it because their washer has worn down. And what that does is it pinches the two pieces of hard plastic. And this would be for any detector, but it's pretty common with the Equinox. They'll pinch that plastic so far, they'll keep tightening it, and then it just snaps. And then it ruins your detecting day unless you've got a spare coil in your truck. So make sure you change those washers. That's something that we stock at the shop, and I think a bag of 10 is probably around, $12 for that. But change the washers or get one of these coil savers.
And even if you get one of those, take the coil bolt out, 2 or 3 times a month and rinse it.
Yes, the same thing with the detector. Rinse that off. I noticed today on my Equinox, it wasn't charging. The green light wasn't coming on. That's another common problem. Then I turned it up and looked at it. I could see I had a little bit of corrosion on there. I just took my fingernail and cleaned that off, and then it started charging.
Yeah, you can take a little piece of foil and do that.
Yeah, and just clean the little bit of green gunk that got on it, cleaned it off, and put the charger back on. Then the light came on; it was charging, and that'll happen a lot. And what can happen too is that you get some corrosion on there, and it slows the charge down on it. It's taken like 2 days to charge, and that's because there's some corrosion on there, and it's stopping it. Yes.
The beautiful girls would like to know what's the most treasured thing you found in Jeff.
Well, for me, I would rather dig a artifact or something that was really old. Like this past, probably 6 months ago, I had an opportunity to hunt an old parking lot that was part of Fort Brooke in the 1820s. So I got some really cool old artifacts. Are they worth a lot? No, but to me, they're priceless. They're uniform buttons that a soldier wore in the 1820s. To me, that's just a cool piece of history. And of course, jewelry we find out here in our beaches is nice too. That's pretty neat. But how about for you, Jeff?
Well, I like those big gold rings with the diamonds. That kind of gets me going. A few months ago we were here. I think when was the last time I was here? In May.
Yes.
In May, it goes back threshold. We're out to, and I was down, it was 4 scoops down, and then I started getting a signal. And the 5th scoop, I pulled out the big bad boy, 14K. It's one of the old ones, the old yellowy gold ones with full of diamonds. And I no longer have it because it was absconded by my son. He had to have it. So, but that's the way it goes in the big tank.
That happens.
Anything
And I
good this week?
and I turned the sensitivity up so you guys can hear that. That's another question I get. Somebody called me and asked me, "Hey, why is my detector making this real that loud hum?" And I said, "Have you turned your threshold down?" Well, what's threshold? So, I hear all these questions. Anyway, that's the threshold. You see right there, it says threshold level.
Mhm.
Jeff has his screen cover on there with the words. A lot of people don't put that on, but that's why it's there, so you can read what that is. So that's an easy fix, turn your threshold down.
Especially when you're old like me and you can't remember. You have to read it.
Yeah, you can read it real quick like that. So please put that screen cover on it. Now, if you speak a different language or Spanish or whatnot, in the box there are different languages available in that pack. There's probably 30 different languages. We had another question.
What was something good you guys found this week so far today?
This week I found, I guess it was last week I was here. I found 5 rings, but none of them were gold. So 4 were junkers and 1 was silver.
My most treasured one was the pearl. Can you tell that story?
Okay, yes, I found that with the Equinox. So that was over in Tampa, and it was was it Kentucky pearl? What kind of Tennessee pearl?
Beautiful.
What kind of pearl was that? I forgot. The girl knew what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had found this ring, and it had a tiny little pearl. Was nothing 14K, nothing fancy, and I had put it on my Facebook page, and a picture of it, and Jocelyn loved it. It fit her. All rings fit Jocelyn, so most wives, every ring fits them. I don't know how that works out, but anyway, I found the ring, and I posted on my Facebook page. Little did I know that someone was searching for that ring, and for months. They had lost it like 3 months earlier, and this is a Tampa Bay beach, and they knew exactly where I found it at, and they even had posted it on Craigslist where they lost it at, and they were trying to locate it. Well, evidently it was the young lady's husband's mother's ring, and it was the last item that he had. He had given it to her to wear with the kids. They were at the beach. Of course, the young child pulls the mother's hand, the ring goes in the water. And they had hired a detectorist to come find it. And they never could find it. So I had found the ring. Anyway, she had saw the post because she joined every Facebook group in the state of Florida. And she was trying to find that ring back for her husband because he was just distraught. When he came into the shop to pick it up, he just stood at the counter and cried for about 5 minutes. He was just sobbing. He was just so happy to get it back. So that was a cool return that we were able to do. And I had no idea. It was just a little pearl, and I can't remember. Do you remember what kind of pearl it was?
It was like a natural.
It was a natural pearl from one of the states, and I don't know. I can't remember, but it was just
Cool.
a neat find that I had returned, because we do return stuff, especially now for you folks who have expensive jewelry. Always make sure you put your name and a date or something in there, because a lot of treasure hunters will track the people down and give it back. Because most of the time, a treasure hunter they're going to get the gold value, which a lot of times sentimental value to someone is worth a whole lot more than the gold value is. And I've gotten some rewards from people before where they were just so thankful to get it, and they had given me a reward. And I'm not afraid to accept a reward.
No.
Somebody wants to bless me because I blessed them.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. If I don't need it, which most of the time I do need it, but if I didn't need it, I would donate it to a charity. It's just a cool thing.
So one other thing we want to cover is coil covers. Now there's one. I take mine off when I'm going to be hunting with it every day in the water. But if you're wet sanding, dry sanding, keep that coil cover on there. Even if you're out in the dirt, It's there for a reason, because the higher you raise that coil, Phil's going to give a demonstration out here of things we see and things not to do.
Yes.
Okay, so first, Phil, go out there and show them the happy wanderer. Yes,
I don't know what the heck.
you know what the happy wanderer. Yeah,
I know the pendulum.
yeah.
And I have a friend who pendulum swings like this because he has to. He's got no choice. But you want to keep your coil flat to the ground.
And brush the ground.
Yes, I would scrape this ground here, but I noticed you don't have your coil covered.
That's right.
If you're on the beach in the dry sand, you want to see that sand moving because you're scraping it. Because if you keep that off the ground, I think Debbie from Mine Lab told me if you keep it off the ground a couple inches, you're going to lose 4 or 5 inches in depth.
Yep, you do.
Because of the air in it. So make sure you hug the ground, cover it evenly, never tilt it like this, never pendulum swing if you can help it. If you've got a medical condition and you have to do that because of your shoulder, your arm, you just never want to. I see people will detect like this, they're a half foot off the ground.
Yeah, they're not finding anything.
They're not finding anything. You've got to be scraping the ground with it and a nice, comfortable pace. I hunt slow.
Speed is your enemy.
Yes, I hunt. That's why a lot of older guys will find stuff, and a lot of really big, I shouldn't say overweight, but big guys who hunt slow will find stuff, find a lot of stuff. And I've got quite a few friends like that because they hunt slow because they're big and they just.
He's talking about me,
No,
folks.
I'm not talking about you, Jim. The person I'm talking about is twice your size.
No, I know who you're talking about too, but I'm not going to say.
Well, good. No names, please. But anyway, just hunt nice and comfortable speed and keep that. And I would be dragging this deck here, but I just don't want to scratch your bottom of your coil up and do that because you don't have the cover on it. So
So
make sure you hunt at a nice, comfortable, slow pace
low and slow.
and listen to your detector because your detector will tell you everything.
Yes, it will. So I think we've covered the Equinox pretty good. We
Yeah,
got any
covered a lot on
questions?
it. If any questions, feel free to Facebook or YouTube message us and we'll answer them as best we can.
Yes, we
Yeah.
will.
And I just want to remind folks that I'm open on Tuesday this week and Saturday. Next week after, I'll be back to my regular schedule.
But he's got the stealth scoops in.
I got stealth, I got the red belly, I got the black detect edge shafts. I got anything you could possibly want. Phil Myers from Myers Metal Detectors. My phone number is 813-237-1939.
That's right. And there's 2 sizes of the stealth scoops.
Yes.
So some
They're
of the
both pretty
ladies, if
light.
you want one that's lighter than that, it's still a very big scoop, but not quite as big as that. It's a 720. That would be the way to go. And carbon fiber all the way. So I think we pretty much covered everything. So I think we're going to end this tonight. Now we'll be back on tomorrow night when we've got Fisher metal detectors, and everybody wants to be there for that. Now remember, if you have not signed up for the giveaway, you got to go to the Treasure Talk Group Facebook page. If you're not a member, just ask to join. We'll approve you. You find the post in the announcements. They're giving away an F-Pulse pinpointer, which is a killer pinpointer. So if you have not registered to win that, sign up. Now, you got to be tuned in to win. And if you're a YouTube watcher, and that's fine, watch on YouTube, but you can't enter on YouTube. You've got to go to the Facebook group
Yes.
and enter on the Facebook group, but you can watch it on YouTube. So, and if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. And the reason we want to get to 1,000 subscribers as soon as we can, and not for money. We're not going to monetize the channel. What we want is when we get to 1,000 subscribers, we get the live closed captions for all those that are hearing impaired and not speech impaired like me. So we've got a good friend who is he's deaf, and he uses a Simplex because it's got the vibrate feature in it. He really wants to watch the show, but you know,
He
can't
read
hear us.
anything. He can't hear us.
So
This is what we're trying to eliminate. We're trying
Yep.
to make sure that anybody who wants to watch a show, if they're hearing impaired, they can see the closed captions, and it's a beautiful thing. Everybody's happy.
yep,
So please subscribe to that YouTube channel, please.
And join us on Facebook. And we're going to sign off now because it's probably about 7 o'clock, I think. I don't know.
7:02.
But I'm getting hungry.
There we go.
So we'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for Treasure Talk with Russ Balberona from Fisher Metal Detectors. So with that being said, we'll see you later.
See you.
Yes.
See you tomorrow night.
I hope it's good.
Is that it?
You okay?
Yeah, the
It's hard
girls
to do
like
that.
it.